My name is Julie Albaugh. I'm editor of Wedding Market News, and today I am joined by the Wedding Diva, no less. Thank you so much for joining us today for this Wedding Market Blab. So now
I hear all these little whistles in the background, so it's kind of funny. That must be people coming in. Hey, everybody! I'm wearing bad hair day, so I have on my world champion Baltimore Ravens cap. For a lot of people know I'm a big football fan, so today is casual day. So since we're just blabbing and hanging out, I didn't get dressed up. So I hope everyone is relaxed too.
Now you're a Ravens fan, is that right?
Definitely, and I know my team is 2-6. I already know that. But what I will say is I have faith in my team, and I'm a ride or die chick. You know, we have a lot of fair weather fans in football. You know, the minute a team starts to do bad, they kind of drop off. We're not here in the Ravens Nation. We're not like that. We didn't get 2 Super Bowls, for being lazy. So, y'all better sit back and watch out, because we're the kind of team that you'll look up in the postseason and go, didn't they start out losing how many games, and how are they end up in the postseason? That's what we do. So
yeah. Now, I know that we talked a lot about some things yesterday, and we were talking about the wedding industry and skills. Yes. Wedding pros that are just getting new in the industry or even been in the business a while, sometimes they don't get necessarily the training necessary sometimes to actually follow through with everything they need to do in their job.
Right. And I think for a lot of people, and this is what I need people to understand, I love weddings. I always will. It's like something that's injected in my blood. But the thing is, in order to do it well, you have to have a skill set. It's not like making a big pot of meatballs and marinara sauce and deciding, you know what, let me throw a couple of meatballs on the wall. Let me see which one sticks. It can't work that way, because this is somebody's special day. So, all other things aside, you really don't get do-overs unless you decide, to renew your vows or something like that. But for the professional, and that's what we're calling ourselves, you have to up your ante and you have to know your stuff, because there we've got a lot of people, pretty websites, pretty blog sites, pretty Instagram, pretty Pinterest, and all of that. But when the rubber meets the road, they can't manage a wedding. For planners, they can't plan a wedding. For photographers, you're coming in with a plaid shirt on and jeans and some little camera that you got for Christmas. It doesn't make you a wedding professional. And so that for me, if I have the list of pet peeves, that's one of them. We've got our industry has kind of jumped the shark in some ways, in that we've gotten so glitzy, glamoury, visually focused, till we haven't gotten back to the core of it, which is having a skill set, which means you can do somebody's wedding, if that makes any sense at all.
Oh, definitely. And, a lot of times we have, photographers, they think, okay, they got a camera, so now they're going to be a wedding photographer. And they maybe didn't even go to photography school. And, they put up a website and here I am.
Well, and here's the thing. I mean, like, for instance, there really isn't a school for wedding planners. There's not a school per se. Now, do I think there should be? Yeah, I do, because, well, I do. And that's a whole nother topic for another day. Mm-hmm. But even if you didn't go to photography school, a lot of photographers, some of the best photographers out here, didn't go to photography school. But what they've done is they've honed their craft. And that's what this is all about. This is a craft. And they have spent years, they have spent time, they've invested in their equipment, they've invested in their education, they've invested in their networking, and they've done all that they can do to be the best they can be. And yes, they have had, and a lot of them have been baptized by fire, and will tell you that. But for the really good folks in the industry, they all have a common trait, a common denominator, and that is they are very focused, and they take their skill and they take their craft very seriously. What it is not a hobby. This is not a pick 'em up game, I think I'll give you something to do. No. We got plenty of weekend warriors out there. And because we do have all these weekend warriors, it kind of dilutes the mix for the professionals, because the public doesn't know that you're a weekend warrior. They see the pretty website that you've done. They see your Instagram, as I always say, famous on Instagram. They see all that. What they don't see is that you don't know what you're doing, or that your skills aren't up to par yet. And look, before anybody starts throwing me hate mail, just wait 1 second. We all have to start somewhere. I'm totally fine with that, because I did. Okay. But I made sure that I invested in myself. I did not come out of the gate, and my gate happened 23 years ago. I didn't come out the gate saying, I know all there is to know. Hire me. No, I didn't. I let people know that I was new, but I let them know that I said, you know what? This is going to be the best wedding ever. And I made good on my promise. I actually over-delivered. Like, I went beyond, and I did it. And that's how I built my reputation. Not only with my potential clients, but with my vendors, because they know that anytime they saw my name on a banquet event order or on a client referral form, they knew exactly what kind of wedding we were going to have. They knew that it was going to be gorgeous. They knew that it was going to run smoothly. They knew it was going to start on time, and they knew we weren't going to have any drama. Like, duh, that's what we look for.
Mm-hmm. Now, what do you think as far as education? What are maybe some of the ways they could, for those that are new in the industry or you've been at, for a couple of years, how should they keep up?
Well, here's the thing. You don't know what you don't know. Okay. Instagram and Pinterest are not your schools of thought. Can I just say that right now? That's not your school of thought. It's nice to get inspiration, but you're not going to learn anything about being a wedding professional by being on Pinterest and Instagram. You're not, because if you think about it, that's all regurgitated. It's somebody else's ideas sharing it with somebody else. So there are way too many conferences and classes and workshops out here for everyone to take advantage of, that there's no good reason why somebody isn't sitting in a classroom or in a lecture. Okay. Part two of that equation, though, when we talk about education, let's be really clear. You have to compare it apples to apples, not apples to grapefruits. Everyone that is out here teaching a class or is a coach or whatever you want to call it is not who they say they are. Vet, just like they do in politics, when they vet each other for running mates, vet the people that you are giving your money to and your time to, who are going to teach you. Find out if they know what they're talking about, because you can't, and this may step on toes, but at 54, I have no freaking filter. If you're going to take a class or you're going to take a course or attend a conference or whatever, and the person teaching it has been in the industry less time than you have, or less than 2 years, or less than 3 years, I need you to think about this. What are they going to tell you? Seriously. Mm-hmm. You want people who are teaching you to have been in the trenches, because they are the best ones who can warn you, who can tell you, look, I know what happened. I did it. And a good teacher, and I teach all the time. Now that I'm retired from active planning, I teach, I coach, I lecture, I go do workshops. And I tell people all the time, you know why I do it? Because I don't want you to make the mistakes I did. That's what we're supposed to do. If you're really passionate about what you're doing, if you really want to make a difference in the industry, and if you've got that knowledge and you're willing to teach, because that's the other thing, you have to be willing to do it, because teaching and coaching and lecturing and doing conferences and workshops is vampiric. Cut your neck right open, because you are a source of knowledge and everybody wants it. But please, people, if you learn nothing else from this blab today, caveat emptor. Buyer beware is for us on this side as well as the clients. So please go ahead and vet it. And if it's someone who says, well, I'm going to offer, quote unquote, a fresh approach to it, we'll define fresh, because 1 + 1 = 2. There are many, if you think of Common Core, we've got many different ways to come to the solution. But the bottom line is, you can't teach me if you don't know yourself. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And that goes for any discipline.
There was a few wedding planners that were teaching other wedding planners, and they were teaching bad things. Yes. Sometimes, it's just like you said, if they don't know themselves, they can't teach other people.
Right. And I mean, you and I, we're at Wedding MBA every year. Okay. And one of the things that I talk about a lot is that what I call common knowledge, or the common denominator of knowledge. When people ask me questions in classes, or even if you stop me on the street, I can give you the answer like that. Why? Because I know it. I don't have to hem and haw. Okay. When you're looking at curriculum, whether you're a planner, a florist, a photographer, a caterer, a baker, whatever, look at curriculum. See if this is the thing, if this program is lining up with what you need to know. And when you're starting out, guess what? You need to know everything. And I do mean everything. There are a lot of people out here across the spectrum. It looks pretty in the magazine. Okay, well, do you know how to make that come to life? Not for just what you saw in the magazine, okay? So not for that styled shoot that only has a seating for 6. No, can you make this come to life for 100, for 200, for 300? It's a lot different when you have to do it that way. And that's where Pinterest and Instagram is not going to help you, because it's not going to tell you how many 90 by 156s you're going to need, or how many 90 by 132s, or the fact that do you know how many people don't know what size tablecloth should go on a 5-foot round?
I don't.
Okay. To come to the
But that's floor, okay. I'm not a wedding planner. But exactly. For instance, I'm not a photographer, so I don't know anything about shutter speed. But if that's my discipline, those are like the basics. To me, like I teach a class about back to basics, wedding planning 101. And it's those things, okay? Like, seriously, you should know what these things are. But if you're not finding people that you can mesh with, whether it is by in-class learning or even by talking to your vendors can be a source of education too. They're not the only source, but they can be a source. But if you're just taking everything as the gospel that you see online, you're going to be in trouble. And if you're in trouble, your clients are going to be in trouble. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, I remember we were talking yesterday, and we were talking about wedding disasters, and you've been in the business how many years?
I retired in December 2014, and that was 22 years. Yeah. I have honestly earned my AARP status in the wedding industry. I have. And it was wonderful. Absolutely. I wouldn't trade it for anything, because I met so many wonderful people. I learned so many things. And actually, out of those 23 years, 19 of them were strictly entrepreneurial, on my own, running my business. I left corporate America to run, and a good cushy job, to run my business, because I didn't want to be in a position at the age I am now. I didn't want to do shoulda, woulda, coulda. I didn't want to be 54 going, man, what would have happened had I did that? And I encourage people to do that. Don't sit back and wonder what could have. Go out there and make it what it can be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, when we were talking all the crazy things that happened to you, tell us about the wedding what happened with this hurricane.
Oh.
You were telling me about this story, and I didn't get all the details, but I know our viewers would want to know.
Okay, so about this. So I live on the East Coast. I live in Maryland, and being right there on the Chesapeake Bay, a lot of times when storms will come up the bay, and it's horrendous. But I had not one, but two weddings that were derailed by hurricanes. And one of them we actually had to push to the following week. And I'll never forget, because the father of the bride, he was adamant. We're talking, we don't have any power in Maryland at all. He's like, well, the church says they have a little bit of power. I was like, yeah, that's lovely. But where we're having this reception at has none. And they're flooded. And you can't even get in there. And all the food is spoiled. He's like, well, what do you think we're going to do? I said, we're going to move it to the next week. Now, they lost half of their guests because they had to do that. But because I saw the storm coming, and I told the bride, I was like, we need to go ahead and start working on plan B. And she listened to me. She said, Daddy doesn't want to hear it. I was like, well, you know what? I'll be the bearer of bad news. And the wedding was beautiful. And that's her nickname. She calls herself my Hurricane Bride. The second one, we lost power at the venue the night before. And I actually put in a plan B. We were going to have the ceremony outside. And then 40 minutes later, we were going to drive 40 miles to the caterer had another location. And we were going to bus everybody. Yes. So at 2:00 in the morning, I'm on the phone with bus companies. And as it turns out, as the good Lord would have it, I was watching the grid. I literally pulled up the grid on my computer, and I could see as power is being restored. Right. Now, if you don't know what you're doing, I don't know what to tell you, because that required a certain skill set, and it required really good relationships. And that's the thing. One of the things I tell people across the wedding industry spectrum is build, maintain, and nurture your relationships. Please don't burn bridges, okay? Because you never know when you're going to need somebody. And all the vendors for both of those events, because we had such tight relationships, they were all in. All in. And everyone was like, what do we got to do? Whatever we have to do to make this work. Nobody was selfish. Nobody. And both of my couples ended up having absolutely stunning weddings. Stunning. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, I had more gray hair when it was done, but hey.
Yeah.
No?
Well, what I was going to ask you before, we will take some questions. So I'm going to ask her one more question, and then we will open it up for some people to come in and ask questions. So get your web cameras ready.
Oh, goody.
But we're going to kind of talk about work-life balance. Today I think it's rough. It's even harder to balance home life. And there's not a lot of wedding professionals that stay in the business. As I was telling you yesterday, I know 2 people in my community that are still in the business. Mm-hmm. I have lasted, more than all these other people.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I mean, and I'm the same here. It really is a rough slog. And I, just to be totally transparent, I got married and got divorced during the time that I ran my business. And I was raising 2 small children by myself. And I was taking care of an aging grandparent who ended up with terminal cancer. And I became her full-time caregiver. I did all of that running a wedding business. And, truth be told, it wore me out. That's actually one of the reasons I retired, because after all of that, I sat back and I looked, and I am very grateful for everything that I accomplished. I feel so blessed about that. But I'm kind of like Kenny Rogers in The Gambler. Know when to hold them and know when to fold them. Okay. A lot of people don't think about their future in the wedding business. They only think about the present. A lot of people don't have retirement plans set up. They don't have succession plans set up. None of that. And my question is, so how long do you think you're going to do this? Me personally, I didn't want to be 55 running after people, chasing after them at reception. I don't want to do that. I think if you have to learn what your boundaries are, and you have to stick with the boundaries. And it's not only because it's the wedding business, it's because you're a business owner, period. You have to decide what your priorities are. And that will guide you. Because if you are young and you're having kids, maybe you're doing stair steps, you've decided, we're going to do 3 kids. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. That's going to be a hell of a ride, because your family comes first. This business doesn't. And that is the thing I need people to understand. Business doesn't come first. Your kids, your partner, your spouse, your family, that's first, because they're always going to be there. This business will come and go. Those people, your loved ones, don't. Especially when you have small children. Being in the wedding business means you don't have any weekends at home. For most of us, it starts on Wednesday, Thursday, and we're not done till Sunday night. Well, heck, you're missing soccer, football, all those things with your family, and it's hard. And I've seen a lot of people, the reason they get out of it is because their significant other puts their foot down and says, you know what? You got to come up with a better idea. But we've gotten to the point where we want to make the money so much, we don't realize that we're actually losing. All the money you make is not going to satisfy your home life, and it's not going to give you peace. It's not. I'd rather put my head down at night and only have 10 clients than to be whirling like a whirling dervish with 40. Because, people will say, oh, we have, not for planners do it, well, we have 50 weddings this year. And I always hold up the finger. I go, wait a minute. If it's only you, or maybe you have an assistant, you do know there's only 52 weekends in the year. That's it. So you're telling me you have 50 weddings. Let's just sit back and do the critical math. How are we going to do that? Because for me, me running the business I ran, and at one point I had 27 people working with me. And we topped out maybe at about 25 to 26 weddings a year. Because there was no way. There were some weeks there, it was like the movie Groundhog Day. Literally, it's every weekend, twice a weekend. And we'll never forget, 2007, we did that, and my team was like, do it again. I was like, you don't have to worry about it. And I'm not. And I cut back. Okay. Did I enjoy it? Oh, man, it was a rush. And I made a ton of money. And then I learned it's not about the money. I wasn't seeing my kids. I was worn out, drug out, and I wasn't having fun. So I stopped. Part two of the equation. I wanted to make the money. I just wanted to see if I could make the money. Okay. But if you're charging the right price, you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
And if you set your financial boundaries, I believe in forecasting every year. If you forecast what you want to do and you set reasonable goals, you'll be fine. You don't have to chase money like that. People chase it so much. You don't have to do that. And not be happy. I take being happy over the money.
Now, it's funny that you talk about this. I bumped into a photographer recently at an event, and she was talking, she only does like 10 or 15 weddings a year. That's how she balances it. Yes. She knows that that's how much money she wanted to make. She charges X amount of dollars. And she said, I can balance it. I don't have to do all these extra weddings.
And a lot of times, everyone, it's become a money grab. And that's the problem. People are like, oh, well, how many streams of revenue I can have? You only need one. Truly, one. Because look at it this way. If you're charging right, and you're saving your money the right way, and you're allocating it the right way, you'll have money for when the season is slow. For me, I would teach because I like teaching, but I was like a squirrel and I pocketed all my money. I did. I could put it in my cheeks, So in the wintertime, I wasn't stressing because truthfully, the life of a planner, a lot of our weddings, depending on where you are geographically, like my wedding season would be like from April to the beginning of November. Okay. And that's when we're actively managing the weddings we've been producing since the year before. Okay. But in the meantime, even though we're doing those weddings, we've got new clients coming in. So the cycle was always constant. It was just kind of like a little wave. That's all. But no, people are like, oh, I'm doing 60 weddings. I'm like, God bless you. Because I'm not ready to have that level of crazy. I never was. I never was.
Now, Event Connect just said she did 4 to 6 weddings a year. Hey, if that's what is a good balance, then that's great.
It's got to be what works for you. Unfortunately, because of social media, because of the internet, I tell you, whoever started the internet, Al Gore, I could smack you. The thing is, we are driven by others instead of being driven by ourselves. So we see what everyone else is doing. And social media, between Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, Pinterest, it's driving everybody else. So you're looking at what everyone else is doing instead of about looking and concentrating on what you're doing and how you can make that really, really work. Do you. Stop worrying about everybody else. You be the best photographer, planner, baker, stationer. Do that, okay? Cultivate your craft. Cultivate your niche. Find the thing. Find that sweet spot that works for you, and you'll be fine. But if you're so busy looking over your shoulder, they did 50 weddings. Well, I've got to do 60. You don't even know what those 50 weddings look like. You're making a supposition. You're assuming. You know what they say about the word assume? So.
Yeah, I know that you did some speaking at the Wedding MBA. What was your topic at the Wedding MBA? What did you speak about?
Oh my gosh. Well, I did two things. This was the first year they did breakout sessions. And they were very, I'll call industry specific. So I was working the one for wedding planners, and then I did, a regular session on the next day on Tuesday. And usually for the past couple of years, I've been in the big room, which is Cottonwood, which is where everybody and his mama is. And while that was fun, anyone who's ever seen me speak, I'm very engaging. I like being amongst the people. So I specifically asked the producers to take me out of the Cottonwood room. And believe me, I got some pushback on it. And I said, well, my bottom line is I can't talk to folk. And I can't interact with them because I'm up on a stage and there's like 4,000 people looking at me and there's these jumbotrons. I don't like it. So the first session, we talked about, we covered a lot about pricing. I kind of really honed in on the meat and potatoes of planning. And really it was about setting, doing the mindset. There are a lot of new people coming in. Okay. And I know for a fact that they don't know what this business is about. And so I made it my mission to tell them. I was like, so I'm going to tell you what the ugly is. We already know what the pretty is, but I'm going to tell you what the ugly is, because you need to know what the ugly is to appreciate the pretty. So we talked a bit about pricing. We talked about dealing with recalcitrant clients. We talked about getting clients. We talked about maintaining that work-life balance. And then on Tuesday, we talked about how we're sort of obsessive compulsive as planners, because, we are, and we're control freaks. But it kind of just, brought a little bit more that we talked about on Monday. And what I learned from that is that there are a lot of people that really love this, but they're all over the place with information because they're getting it from so many different angles and they don't know what's the right angle. Because you got everybody is a coach. Everybody is a life coach. Everybody is a mentor. Everybody is teaching. Everybody's having a conference. So when you have all that and you have all these different warring factions, you don't know what's right. And I was trying over those 2 days to give them some boundaries to say, okay, this is what you need to look for and be honest about it. I'm like, because, you're going to have a wedding where stuff is going to hit the fan. It's going to be so ugly, but you will come out of it 2 ways: covered in poop or shining like a diamond. You choose. And it's your skill set. What you know is how you will weather the storm. I say that across the board.
Mm-hmm. Now, what would be your piece of advice, that any wedding professional should learn from this blab?
Advice. Number 1, honesty is the best policy. And in this case, it's being honest with yourself. You really need to have a good sit down with yourself and say, okay, this is the business I'm in. I've decided to do it for this reason. And you need to be able to give yourself the reasons why you did it, not just cause. You have to decide what your passion is about it. I mean, what is the thing that you just, what gets it for you? What gets your engines going? Number 3, you have to be really, really clear about your business precepts and your principles. How is your business set up? How are your pricing structures done? How is your marketing done? How will you market? Who's your niche? Who's your target? Do you even know who your target is? Before you jump pell-mell into the business, be willing to do some homework first. And it's okay. It's okay if you don't go full blast for a year. You decide this is 2015. So let's just say you decide you want to get in the business. Okay. Well, maybe you don't fully launch until 2016 because you're doing your research. That's okay because it puts you ahead of the game. I think the other thing I would love people to understand is, do you please stop allowing the internet and social media to influence your business. Create the business that works for you. Create your best business because your best business will attract your best client. Don't worry about what everyone else has. Okay. And I guess lastly, you got to feel good about it. If ever there comes a time where you don't like this, walk away. Pull up shop, close up shop, and be done with it. Because it will transfer that energy, that negative energy, that resentment, that petulance, it all filters down into it. And the day you wake up and you're like going, you know what? I'm tired of this. That's when you need to stop. Don't say, well, maybe it'll be better. It's not going to get any better. It's not. And it's okay to know that sometimes we're only meant to be in certain things. There's things called seasons. We're only meant to be in certain seasons of our life for certain reasons. Like I spent my season in wedding planning was two decades plus. Okay. And I did a lot in those 22, 23 years, a lot more than a lot of people would have done. I found myself, I thought I was uniquely blessed, favored, fortunate, the whole nine. But I never expected to let that be my entire season. So I used the skills that I acquired, the things that I fell in love with to jump into my new career. And it's worked perfectly. Absolutely. I would have never, if you had told me 20 years ago this is what I would have been doing, I would probably said, nope. But it is. And I'm good with that. And the thing is, I'm good with it. It doesn't matter to me if anyone else is. What matters is that I like it. Okay. And that's the thing I would tell everybody. Stop worrying about everybody else. What do you like? What makes it good for you? Because at the end of the day, they're not paying your bills. They're not writing checks. They're not dealing with your clients. You are.
What is probably, I never got to ask you this, as far as, you've done so many destination weddings, or was there a place that you prefer, different weddings that you planned in the past?
Yeah, I have been fortunate enough to do destination. And I've got to say, if anything will bring me out of retirement, it's a destination wedding because it has a whole different feel to it. And it actually requires an even sharper skill set because you're not on terra firma. You're not on home turf, and destination will let you know if you're good at this or not. It really will, especially if you have a language barrier. Add that into it. But I like it because I think people who do destination, most, at least my clients, wanted something different. They wanted very low keyed. Some of them had already been married before, and they're like, you know what? We just want to get married. Okay. And getting married, getting married in a foreign country is not what you think. Not at all. Love Mexico. I absolutely love Mexico. One of my favorite places, I think, to be wed. One of my new favorites is now Amelia Island, right outside of Jacksonville, Florida. I had the opportunity to spend some time there back in September. Absolutely. Oh my God. I love it. And that's a great option for people who want beach, but all your cousins can't get their passports for whatever reasons. Or people, I don't want to go out of the country. Well, it's Florida. It's South, I had a chance to do a wedding in the Grenadines, which near closer to Venezuela. Lovely. I'm a fan of making sure, I think every wedding professional, no matter what your discipline, should have a passport. And outside of the wedding business, use your passport. See the world. You will see things differently. You will experience things differently, and you can bring those things back to your business. You can give it a different spin, because we all do. It's a wedding, okay? Basically, there's a certain set of precepts that we use for it, but it is your unique experiences. That's how you put your own spin on it. That's what makes you different.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Linnyette, for coming on today on the Wedding Market Blab. And for those that have joined us and maybe haven't been a part of our Wedding Market chats, I'm also the host of the Wedding Market chat on Twitter. And you can join those on every Wednesday at 1 o'clock. And Linnyette has also been one of our guests on Twitter also.
Indeed.
So we will hope that you will join us. We will usually do our Wedding Market Blabs on Thursdays and the Wedding Market Chats on Wednesdays at 1 o'clock. So thank you so much for joining us. And thank you, Linnyette, for joining us today.
Oh, and tell everybody, if you want to see what I do now that I retired, go on over to, I'll say it, Facebook and Instagram, to The Diva's Kitchen. That's what I do now that I retired. So I still teach and lecture and all that. So, if you ever need a teacher, let me know. But come take a look at what 22 years of wedding planning led to.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to have you on another time and talk about what you do in the kitchen.
Oh, please. That would be awesome. Yes. We can talk about showers and bachelor parties and, newlyweds in the kitchen. I'd love to.
Okay. Well, thanks for coming on, and we'll see you next time.
All right, Julie. Bye, everyone. Right. Thanks for having me.
All right. Bye-bye.